What is something you spend a ton of money on that the vast majority of people never would? Hobbies that I lose motivation for. I have guitars I can't play, a 3D printer that hasn't been used in weeks, sketchbooks that have most of their pages untouched, guns that have fallen silent. I love antique shotguns, handheld gaming consoles in various states of repair, a project car that I have nearly done, and will finish before New Year's I hope, bonsai that are effectively just houseplants in funny dirt, games I don't play, random computer parts scattered about, collections gathering dust, and a ton of parts and specialty tools that rarely get used. I have my sights set on fiddling with gunpla and some light prop/model making for some reason now. If I were smart and financially responsible, I wouldn't deep dive into things immediately. I have a ton of useful oddball skills and mechanical aptitude to show for it though. Chicken feed. Those little buggers are just stomachs covered in feathers. I was going through 200 pounds a month for a while, even though they free range and eat everything they can find. I live out in the country and somehow adopted 4 wild hens that came over from my neighbor's flock. I tried to domesticate them but they just decided to free range all over my yard. I was emotionally invested at this point. I have 6 ducks and damn it wanted some chickens to pet, so I bought 3. They became wild free rangers with the rest and suddenly about 8 more showed up. I'm on month 6 now of feeding all these birds and I get to pet 0 of them. A mixed reef aquarium for my living room. The amount of money you can potentially spend in the hobby is ludicrous, but there is something captivating about watching all the interactions in a marine ecosystem as it grows. Many of the best-looking corals and fish can also be grown sustainably by aquaculture suppliers now, which I think is important if you want to be a responsible pet owner. The other big draw for me is all the gear and tech which is available to tinker with. From Protein skimmers to pumps, poweryads, refugiums, reactors, and dosing equipment, you could spend thousands if you wanted. And that's nothing compared to the cost of some specialty fish or corals with really radiant colors. I raise butterflies. When the caterpillars eat their way through the plants in my yard, I go buy them more. I've spent probably $400 on them last year. I bought a ton of fennel to finish up my swallowtails, another ton of milkweed for my monarchs, and tomato plants for my hawk moths. Edit. Thank you for the sparklies. I'll make a post about it when it's not Thanksgiving. *, where would I put this post? Grin. Edit 2, for those who keep asking, I let them all go, but I'll hold on to the moths until night time. How? You plant's their host plant, they lay eggs and the caterpillars chomp the plant down. You just make sure they don't run out of plant, or get eaten by lizards/wasps. I used to raise them indoors, but I had more time then. They can get sick, in which case, you have to stop growing that plant in that area for a bit. And no, I'm not on TV. There's lots of us. Seltzer water, it's substantially cut down on my alcohol intake and I never drink soda anymore. But to anyone who had never been to my house you'd think I was stocking up for the end of the world or looking into becoming a seltzer distributor. Buy a 5-pound cylinder of CO2, a regulator, hoses and a carbonator cap that fits soda bottles. I drink about 200 liters of soda water a year and the rig cost $100. Check the web for kit lists, worth every penny. Edit. America has SodaStream but there are 3 advantages to the DIY rig. You can make and store multiple bottles in the refrigerator, it's fizzier, and it's a lot cheaper. Edit 2. This popular science article is the one I referenced years ago. I also fill the bottle completely, squeeze out about a quarter of it, put the cap on with no air in the bottle, and chill before charging. Also thanks for the gold. Knives. Not like I buy a lot of knives. I spend a lot of a few. Edit. I'm a pocket knife fan but appreciate nice kitchen cutlery as well. Chris Reeve Knives FTW. I've had more expensive knives and they are very nice. But I like to use my things and I couldn't bring myself to use some of them so I sold them. Now I EDC and use my large Inco C or small Sebenza. They, are the best bang for the buck and set the standard of a high quality knife. Do not bother with clones and go with a nice ZT or Spyderco if don't want to spend $300 on a used basic CRK. You can get very nice ZTs and Spydercos used for $100 to $150. Fountain pens. I haven't sunk much into it yet because poor, but I am planning to spend a lot in the near future. I met an old guy at jury duty with a $700 pen. He said he collects them and already has his pens assigned to specific kids in his will. His $700 pen wasn't even his most expensive pen. He was very proud and let me hold his $700 pen. He was all about pens. I stood there and talked to this guy for 20 minutes after we were dismissed. I don't like pens as a hobby, but I like listening to people talk about shit they are passionate about. Someone I know has grandkids who are super into pens. They were 8 and 11 years old when they begged their grandma to take them to a pen convention in Atlanta. They were so excited. Spent the whole weekend talking about pens with the attendees, most of whom were at least 50 years older than them. We went to lunch and they were talking about expensive pens they'd bought with their allowance they'd been saving up, and talking about how the pen was an everyday carry, and then going on about all sorts of trivial details about pens that apparently fascinated them. Weird little kids, like old men in little kid bodies.